and welcome to Enjoy English School.
欢迎来到 Enjoy 英语学院。
I'm Stevie.
And I'm Laurie.
Today we are looking at our World in Pictures lesson. And if you have the magazine or the CD, if you open it up to this section, you're going to see lots of pictures with the vocabulary words, which makes it a lot easier to remember. And our title today, we're going to talk about something cool and interesting. African Safari.
我们用到了 safari 这个字。Safari 的话呢，它可以指就是那种狩猎的这种行，或者是呢观察野生动物的之行都可以。那在这里的话呢，我们这个文章中待会会看到的对话是这个去观察野生动物的这样的一趟行程。
Yeah, and that's why we look at the second title, The Circle of Life on an African Safari.
对
It makes you think of Disney, right?
对
Circle of Life.
就看到生命的这个循环在这样的一趟这个观察野生动物之行当中所以呢，我们赶快来看看今天的对话吧。
The Circle of Life on an African Safari. Jimmy and Sonia are talking about their safari in Africa.
Do you remember all those zebras we saw? And the flamingos? I can't believe that we saw so many elephants out there.
I know. It was incredible. There were probably over 25 different kinds of animals at the riverbank we visited.
That vacation was better than I had ever imagined.
Remember when we followed all those jeeps going over that hill to see what was happening?
Oh my goodness. How could I forget? Those 6 lions were attacking that buffalo. It was very bloody. There were also those hyenas waiting in the wings.
It was amazing to see what actually happens in nature.
I didn't like that part so much, but I loved driving to the top of that mountain to enjoy the sunset. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that's when we saw that ostrich egg in its nest.
That's right. It was so cute to see that ostrich poking out of its shell.
When I saw it, I remember thinking, wow, we are on our first safari and we've seen the circle of life.
It was marvelous, but it's too bad we didn't see any cheetahs. The guidebook said that they were common in that area.
Maybe we can head back to Kenya someday for another safari.
I'd love to do that.
Okay, in our dialogue today, we have Jimmy and Sonia, and they're talking about their safari in Africa.
所以我们来看到今天我们的对话里头呢，它设定的情境是有 Jimmy 跟 Sonia 呢，他们两个在谈论着，在讨论着他们去非洲的那趟观察野生动物之行。
So, Jimmy says, do you remember all those zebras we saw?
所以一开始的时候 Jimmy 他首先这种回忆的这个很容易用的开头 Do you remember 你记得什么什么什么吗就是这种很常用的，所以他就问 Sonia 说，你记不记得我们所看到的那些全部的斑马呢？
And the flamingos?
还有火鹤呢？
I can't believe that we saw so many elephants out there. So basically they saw a lot of elephants, right?
对，所以他说呢，我不敢相信我们看到那么多的这个大象在那儿。
Yeah, so these first sentences, they're long, but they're kind of easy.
对
Right? They're simple sentences. Do you remember the zebras we saw and the flamingos? And I can't believe there were so many elephants. So altogether, fairly simple. Now, Sonia says, I know. It was incredible. In this case, this basically means it was amazing.
对
Or maybe younger kids might say, it was awesome.
所以呢 Sonia 她就讲说，我知道啊，那个真的是太不可思议了，太令人惊奇了所以这里的话除了 incredible 之外呢，这个刚刚 Stevie 老师讲的 amazing 或者是 awesome 两个都可以。Do you want to spell that?
Awesome? A-W-E S-O-M-E, awesome.
就是非常这个令人赞叹的意思。
Now she says, there were probably over 25 different kinds of animals at the riverbank we visited. So, on safari, they visited an area with a river. And at the riverbank that they visited, which means the side of the river, we call that, river 银行. No. 就是在河边 riverbank. Okay.
我们叫河岸。
Oh, 河岸. In English, we call it 河银行. It's the same word, river bank. But she said there were more than 25 different kinds of animals. So there were 25 different kinds.
所以呢，接下来他继续讲说，在我们去到访的那个河岸这是后面先翻，然后呢，可能有超过25种不同的动物在那儿。
So were there 25 animals?
No, 25 kinds of.
So there were probably much more than 25 animals.
对，绝对不止25只是25种。
Yeah. So then Jimmy says, that vacation was better than I had ever imagined. So he says better than I had ever imagined. This means because now it's over.
对。
This means, before we went, I thought about it. I thought maybe what it would be like, but it was better than I had ever thought about before.
所以呢，接下来 Jimmy 他说，那一趟假期啊，真是比我曾经想象过的都还要好得多啊。然后这里的话，你看到他用 was better， 是因为呢，这趟假期已经过了。然后呢，在他们这趟假期出发前，他就已经想象过假期会是怎么样。所以这里我们用了一个 had imagined， 用它更早一步的时态去表达。
Now, have you seen people go on safari in the movies?
I think so, yeah.
Usually they're sitting in a truck or a vehicle called a Jeep that it's open.
对。
It's open, there's no top. Or there's a top you can take down.
对。
Right? And so that's called a Jeep. And it's so you feel like you're out in the wild.
所以呢，刚刚这个Steve 老师补充的是说，通常呢去参加这种观察野生动物之行的人的话，这种行程的话，他们常常乘坐的就是那种没有顶的，或者是顶可以拆下来的那种吉普车然后呢用那种车去让你感觉好像你也在野外，跟野外是一体的这样。
Yeah. So now they're just talking about all the things they saw on their vacation. So now Sonia says, remember when we followed all those Jeeps going over that hill to see what was happening? Now, here she says, remember when we followed all those Jeeps? It's because it's Jeeps that they were looking at the time.
对。
We followed all those Jeeps going over that hill. And again, we say that hill because she's talking about a hill that they saw. We're talking about what's in her memory. So this means it's a very specific hill.
没错。
So do you remember when we followed all those Jeeps going over that hill to see what was happening? We followed them to see what was happening on the other side, to see why they were going there.
对，所以呢，接着 Sonia 她说呢，记不记得记得当我们跟着那些所有的吉普车所以呢，它指的是他们那个时候开在他们前面的那一些车，然后呢，去 going over 是翻过 that hill 那座小山丘，去看发生了什么事情。所以呢，刚刚提到 that hill 的那个 that 是因为他们也指的是一个特定的这个小山丘，所以你会用 that。
And Jimmy says, oh my goodness, how could I forget? Like, of course I remember. I'm not going to forget that.
对，然后 Jimmy 就回答说，老天啊，我怎么可能忘记呢？
Those 6 lions were attacking that buffalo. And again, we're talking about those lions because he's talking about ones that they saw. They're specific lions.
对，所以呢，他接着讲到说，那6头狮子当时正在攻击那只水牛哦，所以呢，也都是有特定的指的，所以用 those 跟用 that。
It was very bloody. We saw a lot of blood.
对，那么呢，那真的是非常的血腥哦。Bloody 呢，就是这个blood 加了一个 y 哦，所以呢，非常的血腥、血淋淋的。
There were also those hyenas waiting in the wings. Okay, when we say somebody is waiting in the wings, it just means they're standing off to the side. And this comes from the theater. 像那种舞台剧。
对。
The sides of the theater that people can't see backstage, 在后台旁边
的侧边。
Yeah, those are called the wings. So waiting in the wings, that means they're just waiting on the side, waiting for their turn or their chance to come out. So whenever you hear waiting in the wings, it comes from the theater, but it just means they're waiting on the side.
所以呢，接下来呢，这个 Jimmy 他继续回忆到说，还有那些猎狗啊，也呢正虎视眈眈的等着。这里的 waiting in the wings， 刚刚讲到那个 wing 是指那个舞台的后台的侧边的意思所以呢，就是表示这个用语是来自舞台剧，就是当时准备要出场但还没出场的那些演员，他们就是在那个地方等待。所以呢，后来衍生这个就变成说是蓄势待发，或者是虎视眈眈的意思。
And one thing about African hyenas, they make a special sound, right? It's like a laughing sound.
Oh.
So we often call them laughing hyenas. It's a really creepy laugh.
真的吗
Yeah.
Can you?
I can't do it, but it's like, it's a weird sound.
OK， 好，是一种很奇怪，而且呢，
Yeah.
刚刚讲 creepy 是让人觉得毛骨悚然
Yeah.
的那种笑。
So we call them laughing hyenas.
笑的这个猎狗。
Yeah. And so Sonia says, it was amazing to see what actually happens in nature. What actually happens means what really happens.
对。
It's not just what you see in movies. It's amazing when you see what really happens.
所以呢 Sonia 她显然没有特别觉得血腥所以她说呢，这个 it was amazing， 这真的是非常的令人赞叹让人觉得非常的神奇。什么事呢？就是去看到那个真实actually 实际上实实在在的发生在自然中的事情。
Yeah. Okay, we'll take a quick break right here, and we'll be right back with the rest of the dialogue. Okay, looking at the next part, we were just talking about, or I should say Jimmy just mentioned, it was very bloody. The lions were killing a buffalo. And so Sonia says, it's amazing to see what really happens in nature. And Jimmy says, I didn't like that part so much. I didn't like seeing the lions kill another animal. I didn't like that part so much.
The bloody part.
Yeah.
所以呢 Jimmy 他就这个继续来谈这个话题了嘛所以他就说我不太喜欢，我不是那么的喜欢那个部分那么哪个部分？就是刚刚讲到6只狮子去围攻一只水牛的那个血腥的部分。
Yeah. But I loved driving to the top of that mountain to enjoy the sunset. So, on their trip, they drove up to the top of a mountain to watch the sunset.
That's right.
And he says, I loved that part.
所以呢，他接下来继续讲说，但是我非常爱呢，我们开着车到了那一座山顶，然后去这个欣赏、去享受那个夕阳这个部分。
And then he just says, that was beautiful.
所以 Jimmy 就说，那真是美啊。
And Sonia says, yeah, that's when we saw that ostrich egg in its nest. You know, ostrich, the big, giant, tall birds.
对，鸵鸟。
Yeah.
所以呢 Sonia 她就说，对呀，而且那也正是我们看到了那颗在巢里头的鸵鸟蛋的时候呢。
And Jimmy says, that's right. It was so cute to see that ostrich poking out of its shell. So they saw an ostrich egg that was hatching.
孵化
Yeah, Hatch, hatch. So when the egg is breaking open and the little bird is coming out.
对
So it was so cute to see that ostrich poke out of its shell.
所以呢 Jimmy 说对呀而且呢这个真的是很可爱 It was so cute to see 去看到什么呢那一只小鸵鸟它呢从它的蛋壳里头呢这个啄破蛋壳探出头来的那个样子
Now, of course, all little baby animals, you think, oh, they look so cute, right?
对
Let me tell you, an ostrich coming out of its egg, those little things are so ugly. They are. When they dry off and they're just sitting there, they're cute.
Okay.
But when they first come out, that's an ugly little bird.
Okay.
It's not cute at all. 这不是今天的课程。同学，对不起。Okay, so moving on, Sonia says, when I saw the ostrich poking out of the egg, I remember thinking, wow, we are on our first safari, and we've seen the circle of life. So she says when she saw the little bird, she just remembers thinking, this is their very first safari,
对
the first time ever, and we've seen the circle of life. So they started to sing, the circle of life. No, the circle of life means they have seen animals eating and drinking. They saw an animal killed, the buffalo killed by the lions, and now they're seeing a baby be born. So we've seen the circle of life. We've seen all of the whole part.
所以呢，接下来 Sonia 她就说了，当我看到它的时候呢，就是那只小鸵鸟的时候，我记得那个时候我想着，哇哦，我们呢正在我们第一趟的这种狩猎旅行，而且呢，我们呢见证到了这里的 we've seen， 我们呢已经看到了、见证到了生命的循环。那为什么说这个生命的它直译的话是生命的源呐？那这就是一个生命的循环的意思。那就是刚刚 Stevie 老师提到的，你看到了动物它们死掉的，然后有看到动物生出来的，然后有看到它们吃、它们喝，所以呢，那个是生命的一个全部那这里的话，我们看到那个 circle 就是那个生命的循环。
Yep. So Jimmy says, it was marvelous. And again, the same thing. It was incredible.
对
It was amazing. It was awesome. It was marvelous.
所以呢，这个真的是太棒了，太赞了这里的话呢，又多一个刚刚跟提到的几个形容词相同的，你可以一起背，然后可以换着用。
And for you students, you might like this one. What does the word marvelous mean in Chinese?
就是神奇
Right? Well, do you know Marvel Comics?
漫威
Marvel, the word M-A-R-V-E-L, means to see something and to think it's amazing. I marveled when I saw that. And so that's why Marvel Comics is called Marvel. Because it's when you see it, you're supposed to think those characters, those heroes are amazing.
所以呢，原来漫威它的这个取名是有要用到 Marvel 这个字的用意的。对，但是我们中文的话，因为取它的音呢对，所以就没有办法表达那个意思。
Yeah, so students, now you know the word marvelous comes from Marvel. And Marvel, they call it Marvel because they want you to think their heroes are amazing. Yeah.
OK.
So he said it was marvelous, but it's too bad we didn't see any cheetahs. So they didn't see any cheetahs. He wanted to see that.
对，所以他说呢，但是呢，真的很可惜，我们却没有看到任何的猎豹。
The guidebook said they were common in the area. Now, cheetah, if you don't know, students, is one of the hunting
猎豹
Yeah, 猎豹. But the cheetah is the one that runs super fast.
好像说是相当快的。
Yeah, they run. They run. I think they're one of the fastest animals on Earth. So a cheetah, they're very famous. People go to parts of Africa because they want to see the cheetah.
对，很有名的。
Yeah. And so he says the guidebook said they were common in the area. So they had a guidebook, and it said that cheetahs were common in the area they went to.
没错，所以呢，他就补充了一句说，导览手册上面说的这个 they 指的就是这些猎豹们呢，在那个地区、那个区域呢，是很常见的啊。
Yeah. And Sonia says, maybe we can head back to Kenya someday for another safari. So head back to. We've talked about this word to head somewhere. Means to go somewhere. And we say that usually because when you're walking, usually your head moves forward. Head somewhere means to go somewhere. Maybe we can go back to Kenya someday for another safari. So, where were they?
他们已经回来了。
They were in
Kenya.
Kenya, in Africa.
对，所以呢 ，Sonia 她就讲到说了，也许我们可以呢，在某一天呢，再回到肯亚，然后再来一趟呢狩猎的旅行。所以呢，这里刚刚讲到那个 head back to，head 这里指的是动词就是刚刚讲到的，你往哪边走，你的头一定朝那边，所以就是等于 go 的意思。那这里的话是回到，所以加了一个 back。And
Jimmy says, I'd love to do that.
然后 Jimmy 说，我非常的乐意。
Okay, we'll take a quick break and come back and look at our words and phrases for today. Okay, looking at the words and phrases, our vocabulary list that we looked at today, we learned the word incredible. It was amazing, incredible. Bloody. We also learned to wait in the wings or wait on the side. We learned sunset and nest. Talked about a little bird in a nest. And to poke out of something. We also learned the word marvelous. And marvel comes from marvelous. And we learned head back to go back to a place. And those are some of our words and phrases for today. We will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.